Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on CoreTV News on the hour. I am Ebulomo Adekule. With the commencement of the 2015 elections barely 48 hours away, Lagos State Governor Babátúndé Fáṣọlá has described the forthcoming polls as historic. The governor stated this while delivering an address to the people of the state on the Presidential National Assembly governorship candidate as well as State House of Assembly elections. Governor Fáṣọlá acknowledged the desire for peace demonstrated by majority of the populace, reminding all and sundry that the only way to determine bright future for any society is for the people to take their destiny in their own hands.
I think the elections will be historic because we will set an example for the whole of Africa and show that we can decide our affairs. I know, however, that there can be no history without history makers. You, the voters, the dynamic people of the Center of Excellence, will be the history makers. Please know that what you choose to do on Saturday will decide whether Nigeria changes or remains the same over the next 4 years. I know that an overwhelming majority of us want peaceful, transparent, credible, and violence-free elections. But as we wish for very successful elections, we must know that wishes alone will not take us there. We must take action to realize our wishes. We must go out to vote and make the change that we want. I expect the security personnel to act professionally and without partisanship in keeping you safe because they and their families also have a stake in a peaceful election.
Fáṣọlá also gave vital tips on how to bring about a hitch-free accreditation while encouraging citizens to wait and ensure their votes count from a reasonable distance. It was also a moment to stress the capability of conducting credible elections as demonstrated in the manner the Nigerian people collectively stand against the Ebola epidemic.
For the card reader to identify you. You have a right to remain at the polling station at a reasonable distance. Firstly, election is about your lives. So why should it take place and be concluded behind your backs? Secondly, no law forbids you from staying at the polling station. What you simply cannot do is to disturb other voters or to interfere with the process or to campaign for votes on election day. That is unlawful. Thirdly, and most importantly, the Electoral Act requires that the result at each polling station must be collated, announced by the officials, and posted at the polling station. The question then to ask those who say you cannot stay at the polling station is this: who will hear the results, and to whom will they be announced if the voters have left? We have set an example for the whole of Africa about how to manage Ebola epidemic in an urban center. It was the first of its type in almost 40 years of Ebola epidemics. We did all of this in a democratic setting. We can set an even better example with this election by being law-abiding and by being peaceful, and make this Saturday's elections one of our finest political hours. Dear Lagosians, history beckons. Don't turn your backs.
A federal high court in Abuja has ruled out the possibility of determining the search on the eligibility of the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Muhammadu Buhari, before the March 28th election. It has consequently fixed April 22nd and 23rd for further hearing in the suit seeking Buhari's disqualification. Presiding Judge Justice Adeni Ademola said the court is not in a hurry to determine the case since it can do so after the election. He also dismissed the applications by a Lagos-based lawyer, Ebolu Adegboruwa, and one Chukwuma Ocho to be made parties in the case.
When eventually we finished this case and the court found that he was not qualified, he ought not to have even contested, the court will simply dethrone him, and that is the provision of Section 31, subsection 6, subsections 5 and 6 of the Electoral Act is there, that the court can disqualify any person, whether retroactively or right now or in futuro. So we have no problem about that at all. In fact, I am to disqualify him so that the military will be involved, it will be invited. To me, the judiciary should not be intimidated. That is intimidating the judiciary, trying to warn the judiciary, don't do this or do this. We should eschew that. The young man here just decided now, you can see that he can never be influenced by anybody. This is law we are talking about. We're not talking about sentiments or politics or morality or ethics or philosophy. So the judge was right to have adjourned the matter to 22nd and 23rd of April for hearing, because as a pre-election matter, the elections that come up on Saturday will not even affect it.
Now, what happened today was that the court delivered its ruling on the applications brought by some people to be joined as parties to the case. Now, what the court said was that he could determine the case without joining those who applied to be joined as parties, which of course is correct. So now the cases were now adjourned to 22nd and 23rd April for hearing. That obviously means that INEC, which has been put under some kind of pressure, she has now got a green light, so to say, to go ahead and continue with its arrangements for the election. There's nothing to disturb INEC.
President Goodluck Jonathan has met with the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Muhammadu Buhari, this morning to sign a peace accord, which happens to be the second during the electoral process. We'll bring you details much later. The People's Democratic Party insists that it has no links with numerous court cases seeking to stop the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress from participating in Saturday's election. It argued that it was too busy on the campaign trail to consider such moves. PDP spokesman Olisa Metu said at a news conference that the ruling party is focused on returning President Goodluck Jonathan to office.
PDP is a ruling party, and because we are the ruling party and we're in government, we suffer from some things. We have noted, and I noticed that some people will decide to take actions. Some will decide to sue Buhari. Some will make all kinds of things. And people will say the party or the president is trying to stop Buhari. It is one of the burdens of being in power, because everybody feels that there is something that they can benefit, or they can gain instant recognition, 2 minutes fame, or they can get some cake that is being shared by their doing that. The PDP has never been involved in anything. As a matter of fact, I'm not even aware that they have 10 cases against Buhari. I noted the outcry of the opposition yesterday that we are trying to stop Buhari, and our reaction was simple. Democracy in this country is more important than any other thing. And the PDP and their president will never get involved in anything that will attempt to truncate or discredit democracy in this country.
The National Executive Committee of the Unity Party of Nigeria has resolved to back the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Muhammadu Buhari, for the March 28th polls. This is a clear departure from the earlier endorsement of President Goodluck Jonathan by the party chairman Frederick Fashion. UPN also endorsed the use of permanent voter cards and card readers, contrary to the position of Fashion, whom the party leaders say is no longer one of them. They later presented a document affirming UPN's position to a representative of APC. As various groups pitch their tents with candidates in the elections, Kwara indigents in Lagos have also made their standpoint known. Chairman of the Association of Kwarans living in Lagos, Ahmed Ajikobi, disclosed that the group is not only supporting the party because of the governor of Kwara State, Abdul Fattah Ahmed, is from APC, but because the party has afforded them the chance to thrive well, especially in the Owode-Onire market in Lagos.
Kwara State indigene in Lagos, the businessmen and women, and of course, the politicians among us. We're here to deny PDP in Lagos. Our father, our mothers, that the Kwara indigene in Lagos are saying they are ready to vote for APC for all the elections.
APC presidential candidate campaign council claims the federal government is plotting to deliberately engineered trouble in 6 states to avert the imminent defeat at the polls. The states, according to the party, includes Lagos, Imo, Rivers, Bayelsa, Kano and Sokoto. Spokesman for the campaign council, Garba Shehu, said in a statement that the APC's position is based on credible information from inside the federal government. He noted that the plan is meant to generate major crises that would either lead to the postponement or outright cancellation of the election in order to exclude the states from the first round of voting. APC Campaign Council claimed that 100 trained saboteurs had been deployed to each of the states to carry out the plan. It's the CoreTV News on the hour. We'll take a break and we'll return with more reports. Please stay with us.
The army was not supposed to be visible or to be around any polling unit unless there is a breakdown of law and order and they have been invited by the Inspector General of Police.
That elections are shouted in Africa is no news. But in Nigeria, it comes with consequences.
Against the will of one man.
Consequences that have toggled the nation's politics and may shape how Nigeria elects.
This is the year of PGP.
The momentum gathers.
When we promise, we deliver.
The fireworks is unending.
We did it and continue to do it.
55 years this year, and in her fourth republic, this is Nigeria's 5th general elections. All the action, all the news, the updates, and the news behind the news we will bring to you live from the field and in the studio on CoreTV News as Nigeria elects.
Many thanks for being there with us, and for more news and other information you can visit our social media platforms. On Facebook, facebook.com/CoreTV News. Our Twitter handle @CoreTV News NG. And on YouTube, youtube.com/CoreTV with a space then news. President Goodluck Jonathan has reaffirmed his commitment to a peaceful, free, fair and credible election in Nigeria on March 28th and April 11th. He also expressed his readiness to meet and sign another peace accord with his main challenger, Muhammadu Buhari of the All Progressives Congress. President Jonathan said this at an audience with a delegation of the National Peace Committee led by former head of state Abdulsalami Abubakar at the presidential villa Abuja. He also urged all political parties, their candidates and supporters to approach the elections with more patriotism and a greater willingness to place national interest above personal ambition. The president said that the federal government had worked very hard over the years to promote strong democratic institutions that will sustain the country's democracy and would not tolerate any form of violence during or after the polls. Committee Chairman General Abubakar commended the president for his consistency in insisting on peaceful, free and fair elections in the country at all levels. At another meeting with a group of international election monitors, President Jonathan gave an assurance that the coming elections will not generate the type of violence that followed the 2011 elections. The international observers were from the African Union Group led by Dr. Amos Sawyer, the Commonwealth Group led by Dr. Bakili Muluzi, the European Parliament and the International Republican Institute. There are strong indications that security agencies may clamp down on troublemakers ahead of Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections. Reports was learnt in Abuja that the troublemakers would be arrested based on intelligence reports on persons of interest. The names of the troublemakers could not be ascertained as of the time, but security sources said they might be arrested on the eve of Saturday's elections. Shortly after the security sources spoke, the All Progressives Congress said it was worried about the plot to arrest some of its leaders, especially Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu. The party said it also learned there was a move by the security agents to restrict the movement of the Director General of its campaign organization and Rivers State's Governor Rotimi Amechi. The APC, through its National Publicity Secretary Lai Mohammed, however, expressed confidence that Nigerians would resist any attempts by the ruling People's Democratic Party to use security agents to harass, intimidate and arrest opposition figures during the elections. It will be recalled that some APC governors were prevented by security agents from entering Ado-Ekiti a day to the June 21st, 2014 election in Ekiti State. One contacted on the alleged plot by security agents to clamp down on troublemakers. The first public relations officer, Emmanuel Ojukwu, said anyone who causes trouble or violence during and after the polls would be arrested. He, however, explains that no member of any political party would be targeted by the police. They, however, said since security agencies had the responsibility of ensuring hitch-free elections, they were free to take steps within the ambit of the law to forestall a breakdown of law and order. The police authorities have warned uniformed private and government security agencies not to move within 300 meters of any polling units in the country. The groups listed in the police advisory include voluntary organizations such as Boy Scout, Vigilante Group, Boys Brigade, Peace Ambassador, and Man O' War. The police also want politicians and VIPs not to go to the polling units on election day with armed orderlies and insisted that the use of sirens, revolving lights and tinted glasses by unauthorized citizens would not be allowed. The police also reaffirmed the restriction on vehicular movement from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on March 28th and April 11th. The Lagos State chapter of the People's Democratic Party has issued what it described as a reminder and instructions to all our candidates and campaign groups to terminate campaigns for the party latest 12 midnight Thursday 26th. According to the PDP, the instruction is pertinent and expedient, having gotten wind of APC plans to use fake PDP campaign groups to hold rallies on Friday with the motive of accusing the PDP of flouting electoral guideline on deadline for campaigns. The PDP, in the statement signed by its State Publicity Secretary Ganita Taufik, disclosed that any group purportedly on rally for the PDP after 12 midnight on Thursday does not have the approval of the PDP or any of the candidates and can be arrested. Meanwhile, the PDP in Lagos has boasted that the deliberate strategy of conceding 4 representatives and 2 assembly seats to non-indigenes will count as boosts for her to return President Jonathan and indeed take over the state. With just 2 days to the commencement of the 2015 general elections, the FCT INEC has taken delivery of sensitive materials. The materials loaded in 4 trucks arrived at the INEC office at exactly 4:20 p.m. amidst tight security. Journalists and other stakeholders had already started swarming the premises at about 12 noon in expectation of the materials. FCT Resident Electoral Commissioner Jacob Jatau explained that it underlines the Commission's preparedness for March 28. President Goodluck Jonathan has expressed confidence that Nigerian troops will liberate Gwoza from members of the Boko Haram sect latest on Friday. Once that is achieved, he said it would not take the nation more than 1 week to clean up. Jonathan spoke while granting audience to a group of international election observers who paid him a visit at the presidential villa Abuja. He recalled that when security operatives advised that elections be rescheduled for security reasons, a number of people thought it was just because of the terror of the attacks in some parts of the north. He, however, admitted that was a major factor too, because the Boko Haram sect was in 3 states, Borno, Yobe and Adamawa at that time. Jonathan added that Gombe State was attacked on the same day the presidential election was earlier scheduled to hold. He said the aim of the insurgents was to disrupt the elections, but they were repelled. The president assured his guests that elections would be conducted on the Saturday across the country and there would be no reason for inclusive results. And now we'll take another break to bring you a story from outside Nigeria. Stay with us.
Morning, Mr. President.
Morning, sir.
How are you, Mr. President?
How are you, sir?
How is the campaign?
We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Martin Luther King, Jr.
One of the two pilots of the German-winged plane that crashed in the French Alps was locked out of the cockpit, according to reports. Sources say early findings from the cockpit voice recorder suggest the pilot made desperate efforts to get back in. The Airbus 320 from Barcelona to Düsseldorf hit a mountain on Tuesday after a rapid 8-minute descent. Relatives of the 150 passengers and crew who died had to visit the site. However, an unnamed source says that one of the pilots, it is not clear if it is the captain or the first officer, left the cockpit and had been unable to get back in. It says the guy outside was knocking lightly on the door, but there was no answer. An alarm indicating proximity to the ground can be heard before the moment of impact, the source adds. Mr. Jyoti said the second black box, the flight data recorder, had not been found, and he could not confirm an earlier statement by President François Hollande that its casing had been recovered. And that's it on the news for this hour. Join us again, top of the hour for more. Many thanks for watching. I am Ebolomo Adekunle.